appeared in the court of Judge Frank Caprio and immediately started behaving rudely. The woman said that she will not pay the fine, do whatever you want. The judge said that he will make a payment plan for her, which will make it easier for her to pay the fine, but the woman's behavior is enough. I will not do it anyway. Judge Frank Caprio, who is known to the world for his compassion and kindness, got angry for the first time in the courtroom. This court proceeding was not published anywhere. But Frank Caprio has definitely mentioned it in his book, and what happened after that changed Frank Caprio's life forever. Dark Edge Stories videos once again welcome viewers. Who would have thought that a child who polishes people's shoes while going to school would one day get the title of world's nicest judge? It is quite difficult to guess by watching the court rulings of Frank Caprio how many deep wounds are hidden behind this smiling face of kindness and compassion. Frank Caprio was the chief judge of the Municipal Court of Providence, Rhode Island, from 1985 to 2023, for 38 consecutive years. He served in this position. He became known for his role in the reality TV show Cut in Providence. In his court, he tried cases related to traffic violations, such as parking violations, speeding, and running a stoplight. But Frank Caprio always tried to solve all the cases by joking with the defendants, smiling, and giving them discounts on fines. Sometimes he would come with the defendants and get the children to roll, creating a humorous atmosphere in the courtroom. Sometimes he would hug the defendants himself and try to share their pain and suffering. One day, a 96-year-old man came to his courtroom and was accused of speeding in a school zone. When the judge asked him why he was speeding, the old man's eyes became moist. He said that he was taking his 63-year-old son to the hospital because he had blood cancer. Frank Caprio wasted no time in courting the elderly man and dismissed the case without a fine. His cheerful attitude was appreciated not only in America but all over the world. Even judges in other countries have recognized Frank Caprio as their idol. But behind this slowly smiling face is a painful story that brought him to a point that he never imagined. After his retirement in 2023, he was diagnosed with cancer, and during this time he started writing his book Compassion in the Court, which was published in the same year 2025. There is an interesting incident behind this behavior of Judge Frank Caprio that happened to his grandparents. His grandparents were completely illiterate when they migrated from Italy to Providence City. Their conditions were so bad that his grandfather used to make a living by selling fruit. One day, he got drunk with his friends and got rowdy, and the police caught Frank. Caprio's grandmother borrowed money from the neighborhood and went to court and offered the judge money in front of everyone to free her husband. That too in signs and broken English. At that time, her young son Tip was with her, who knew a little English. The judge called Tip to her and said, "Take your parents home. They have been released." When Tip told his mother this, she returned praying to the judge. This little boy was none other than Judge Frank Caprio's father, who was affectionately called Tip. Frank Caprio says that although this case happened long before I was born, hearing the story of this judge's behavior still reminds me of my grandparents when I see immigrants in my courtroom. I try my best not to cause them any trouble. Frank Caprio's father's real name was Antonio Caprio Jr., but everyone called him Tip. When Frank Caprio's father came to America, he lived in a one-room apartment where there was no hot water. There were 12 children in one room and only one lamp for light. He had to leave school in the 7th grade and started helping his father, Frank's grandfather, to run the family. The family's conditions were so bad that cotton often accumulated in empty pockets. But Frank Caprio wrote that they did not even have cotton in their pockets. Frank Caprio was born on November 24, 1936. And he started living with his father Tip and mother Flomena in the same one-room house with cold water and one room. If he ever wanted to take a shower, he had to walk several kilometers away. His father Tip tried to set up several stalls, but due to the Great Depression, he could not get any work. Finally, he worked as a milk distributor. Mila and Frank Caprio also started helping him from a young age. Once, when Frank was 8 years old, he had to deliver milk to a house. This house belonged to a rich man whose son was Frank's schoolmate. When Frank Caprio knocked on the door of this house early in the morning with an empty stomach, a strong smell of toast came from inside. When the door opened, his schoolmate was sitting at the breakfast table crying. Frank thought that maybe he would invite him in for breakfast, but instead, he was being scolded by his father. His father pointed to his crying son and said, "Thank God you are lucky. Otherwise you would be carrying milk in the snow like that boy." Little Frank Caprio felt so bad that after 80 years, he wrote about it in his book. But one thing was that Frank Caprio spent his childhood in very difficult circumstances, but he was very happy with his life because he had received such an education. The conditions were so bad that on winter nights, they didn't even have a blanket to fly up in. The milk company only gave them one blanket, and that was put on the milk so that it wouldn't freeze. At night, Frank Caprio and his brother shared the same blanket in the attic. Now, because this blanket had cream on it, rats would come every day to eat the cream, and Frank Caprio was very scared. One day at the age of 16, Frank Caprio's father laid his hand on his shoulder and said that you would one day be a liar, but remember that not to charge the poor at that time. He used to study in Frank High School and did a lot of work in part-time with his father, even after polishing people's shows by sitting slogans on the road. They got admission in a college of provisions. It was a great thing for a poor family to reach college. Of their 45 cousins, Frank Caprio was the other who reached the college last year. But in the last year's college, I meant reading that they had to quit all their part-time jobs, and if they had to do so, then how would they have been admitted to this university? But Frank knew well that his parents would not be able to afford the university. So he went to his favorite university at night instead of visiting the university. The wind that he could not forget for a lifetime. One day when he returned from Ella College, he lifted his house to the Franca clipboard apartment whose condition was very bad. Frank's class fellow saw his house and said that if you want to be a successful lord, you cannot stay in such a house. But he did not forget this for a lifetime. After becoming a lord, he also stepped into politics and once he stood in the election of the Attorney General. But the opposition party cut off his address by making false accusations of organized crime. Then he started practicing his law. Frank told that one of the 3 municipal court judges of Providence has been transferred and now a seat has been vacated. Frank didn't understand why the mayor is telling him at the moment. To which the mayor said he would be perfect for this post. Frank had never seen a moment of happiness before, not only for Frank but also for his parents, a proud moment for both of Frank's Purvey's wrestling champions, and whenever he had a match. His father Tip was always there to watch his match when Frank was there for a day. He who had several $100s of parking tickets, as well as started abusing Judge Frank Caprio, said that I would not pay this fine. My children and I also have to pay for them. Judge Frank Caprio put them on the payment plan. Now, they said they could do it. On the first day, Judge Frank Caprio got angry and he put the case on his car and demolished the case. Now his car will not be able to run until the fine will be paid. Tip scolded Frank very much. After Frank Caprio's life proved to be the turning point, he decided that if any decision was to be made against the defensive, he would first know how the decision would affect his families. He said that his father's scolding taught him what he did not even know after 5 years in La College. The Philomena Fund was funded by the fund that could not pay for the fines. Judge Frank Caprio's fame created a TV program called Caught in Providence. The story behind it is that the judge's brother, who was fond of shooting video, made videos of different things. But he was always looking for a good scene to capture. He also celebrated the show, which was named Caught in Providence, which was run on local cable TV. Because Frank Caprio could not charge any fee in return, but after social media, his copies were uploaded to the internet, and now he was uploaded to the world. Not only in the people of Providence but also for the whole world. As a niece judge, Judge Frank Caprio resigned in January 2023 after taking office for 38 years. The next day he was seen on August 21, 2025, he left the world forever.